wasn't a strong start to the marketing week as gold plunged Monday to its lowest level in 2 years. Part of the broad market sell-off was due to economic news in the world's most populous country. China's economy grew 7.7% in the first quarter. That's actually above its own target of 7.5%, but below what many economists were expecting. Oil shed a few dollars from last week, while corn, soybeans, and wheat all lost ground by Monday's close. We talked with Johannes from Central Valley Ag on Thursday morning. Some areas of Nebraska were experiencing snowfall then, which increased the concerns about delays in planting.
Yeah, I'd say everybody's, ready to get going, at least, get some progress going. As of Sunday night, 2% nationwide, 12% behind where we were a year ago. That sounds kind of ominous, but then when you remember, what ended up happening last year, it's still not the 1st of May, so I guess it's still early. If we start getting to the end of May and we're still talking cold and wet across the Corn Belt, then I think it's time to be concerned.
Yeah, and 0% done in Nebraska, which is a difference from last year, obviously, as well.
Absolutely.
Have you seen any market movements due to this weather? Because the eastern half of the Corn Belt, at least, is getting a lot of precipitation. They're going to be in great shape.
Yeah, they're completely healed from the drought of last year, so totally different situation from a year ago. Actually, we're going to see some flooding in places in Illinois and Iowa just due to the excessive rains here the last couple of weeks. But overall, they're going to be in good condition. I guess, if anything, too much cool, wet weather would be a bigger concern over to the east.
There's been some slight talk about acre switching or whether or not there's going to be less acres of corn. Is there anything to that yet, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, if we're getting to the end of May, then all right, then let's take a look and see if we need to switch or something. But for the most part, people stick with their rotations. And, if you actually look at the numbers, corn versus beans, it's still really tough to go soybeans.
Let's talk about the big news this week. It was Monday. There was some disappointing news from China, at least from an economist standpoint. China was better than what they were expecting, but gold was hit as well. Does this mean I don't want to own gold right now? Should I just sell it all?
Well, when you think about the normal reason for owning gold, it's a hedge against inflation. And when China's numbers came out negative or not nearly as good as what they thought, it's a sign of possible deflation. So that's one of the reasons why we saw the sell-off in gold. Also some talk of Cyprus selling off gold to pay off some of its debt. So that kind of led to a sell-off, and then it led to technical selling. So yeah, it was a horrible day, which bled over to the commodity markets across the board.
Any concern there going forward, whether or not that continues to spill or whether that continues to fall and spill into grains?
It is definitely something to keep an eye on. I mean, if gold is going down, that's probably a sign that the U.S. dollar is going to remain strong. A weaker U.S. dollar should be good for grain and or for corn and soybeans.
Right. I want to ask you about ethanol because it's at least maybe getting some breathing room here. Is that accurate to say?
It is. Actually, the spot ethanol margins are the best we've seen since 2011, so it's a welcome sigh of relief. The thing is this week's weekly ethanol grind was slower than last week, so that was a little bit puzzling. Last week we saw a nice jump in increase in production, but this week we saw a little bit of a slowdown.
Let's talk about the old crop. Let's start in corn here. Where do you think is the range here? Where's the ceiling? Where's the floor between where you're playing at?
Well, now that we had the sell-off here the last couple of weeks, it was a bigger sell-off than most people thought was possible for old crop. We're seeing a little bit of a move in basis, but I think it's going to be tough to climb over $7 futures for old crop. The old crop carryout is tight, but there's enough uncertainty and enough unknowns out there, and the carryout's comfortable enough that seeing $8 futures is probably not realistic anymore.
Barring major drought or major weather news, essentially.
Right.
Old crop soybeans, do you feel the same way there, or is there other news there?
Well, the thing that's interesting in old crop soybeans is the crush numbers. And on Monday, we saw the latest numbers for the month of March. And looking at the cumulative totals so far this year, the next 5 months, the rate needs to drop by 20%. And the largest rate drop over the last 5 months we've ever seen in the last 40 years is only 12%. So that tells me that, all right, there's still going to have to be some rationing that takes place in order for soybeans to come into line.
When you look at both new crop corn and soybeans, what's your mentality? Is it more aggressive or defensive as you try to look out to pricing that new crop?
Well, we've been preaching the message to know your numbers for quite some time, and you know, that's where you have to start. You have to have somewhat of an idea what number makes profit for new crop corn and soybeans. And then once you know that number, you know, look at ways of locking in profit margin. And just to use big round numbers for easy figuring, if your break even in corn is $5 a bushel and you sell the first half of your crop at $5.50, the last half of your crop, the break even drops to $4.50 a bushel. Okay, so by selling that profit margin, you're decreasing what you need on the rest of your crop just to hold things together. Now, obviously, break even is not the goal for anyone, but it's something that we need to look at in terms of managing our own risk.
Especially if you feel it can just get a little bit higher. I'll finally end with this. What do basis numbers look like in your area?
You know, basis has been interesting. The inverse between May and July futures has made it difficult to manage those spreads. But you know, there's still a tight supply. The ethanol margins are really going to help. So we think basis should be supportive, if not strong, going into the summer months.